Hey, so I'm wanting to make this video just because I think, and I'm planning on making a bunch of other videos too about different topics just because I think it's important and I think it's important of what our society needs right now because clearly our society is in a very bad decline and rapid decline of how much people are losing their sanity, people who are losing their identity, people who are losing hope for just a future. But one aspect I want to talk about is about identity. Because, as you understand, and I've talked about this for so long about this, but I think this is a video that people need to see and something that the world probably doesn't understand and not a lot of people understand either. But the point I'm talking about today is the idea of having to just identify with one based just because of who you are. This idea that we have where we think that we need to be something just because of what we are as a person, saying, oh, if you're a black person, you just need to act a ghetto, or you have to act a certain way, or you have to talk a certain way, or you have to listen to things in a certain way. How does that make sense? Just because you're black means you have to do all that, and you have to conform to all that, and you have to put me in this kind of box because of that? That doesn't make sense. And especially for me. This doesn't happen to a lot of Latinos from what I've seen, but unfortunately it's happened to me all my life ever since I was 11 years old. What I'm talking about is the phrase known as house beater, which, if you don't know, is a term that is used to describe a Latino or Latina as as a person of Hispanic or Latino heritage who is not fitting in with their Hispanic roots, their Hispanic culture, and is either around white people all the time in words where they're described as being around white people who don't respect them. In their words, sucking up to white people. Which is stupid. Because if you don't know, I've had to deal with that my whole life, pretty much. And especially with me being in middle school when it first happened, it's unfortunate. Because when I was in middle school, to give you a little bit of background, like I said before, if you know my story a lot, then you should know. Or if you don't, let me just explain. And if you don't want to listen to this aspect of my story, then you could just skip to where I'll talk about what happened. So I was adopted I'm born in Guatemala. I was adopted by a Caucasian couple who loved me, cared me, fed me, and they loved me no matter what. But it's just because I was raised in a household where everybody else didn't look like me because everybody was white. Obviously, I knew they weren't my real parents because they didn't look like me, but I didn't care. They loved me. They cared for me. And I didn't think anything. Yeah, they didn't look like me, but they were still people who raised me and people who I still looked up to and who I loved. And of course, you're always going to be a bratty kid, and I acted like that a lot when I was young, but that's just what you learn. But my whole life, pretty much, I've lived in areas where I lived in a nice suburb, nice, very Caucasian suburbs my whole life. With fortunate wealth from my parents, and they're well taught. They have master's degrees, made really good may have had really good jobs, and they managed to take care of me and my brother, everybody in my family, and we lived well. I mean, yeah, there were times when things would get messy, but those were just small little instances, and no matter what, we still remained a family. But as you should know, I've just mostly lived in suburbs my whole life where everybody was Caucasian, and it was more a Caucasian area. And I didn't really see a lot of my own race a lot. So we're getting close to it. So then when we moved to Chicago, it was still, it was mixed more. It was a lot more mixed. Because as you should know, even though I mostly lived in more Caucasian suburbs, when I went to schools, it was extremely diverse. There was a lot of different types of people, which made me help me understand different people from growing up. But then the thing is, though, is I was never around people that looked like me or was the same race. So then when we moved to Chicago, it was the same when I moved a lot through elementary schools a lot, but when I went to this elementary school, it was still an average elementary school, just a lot of mixed people, still Caucasian. But then when I went to middle school, interestingly, in middle school in Chicago, Illinois, where I lived, it was more of a Latino middle school where there was a lot more Hispanics. And so at the time, I thought maybe it would be nice to see somebody that looks like me or be in a school where a lot of people look like me. I thought about that at first. But then once I went to the school and they saw who I was, how I talk, where I'm from, my background, they didn't like me. Because that's when the insults came in. They would say, "Oh, you grew up in a white household? Oh, yeah, you're a house beaner. Yeah, you're this. You're a beaner." Meaning you hate yourself that you're Latino. You hate the fact that you come from Guatemala. You hate the fact that you're just like your Aryan white parents. At the time, I didn't know what to think about it because I didn't know much of the words that they knew. And then they would say things with, and like I said, I have a voice where I sound very American. And I don't know why people have a problem with that. So, of course, with their little Hispanic accents, they just like to chip a lot with their voice and be like, "Oh no, oh no, really? Oh yeah, you're a house beaner. You're just you're a wetback. You don't like us." I'm like, why? Why do you have to say that? And especially when one time, I think it's just because for one class I had to give a project of where I was from, how I grew up, what's my story, and I guess they knew about that. And then a couple of girls ended up walking towards me. I guess after the class, after my project, they walked up to me with a surprised but happy smile on their faces, and they went, "Are you a house beater?" And I'm like, "Why are you saying that?" And they're like, "Because you don't love yourself. You hate your actual birth parents." And I just didn't know what to say to that. But then I thought to myself, I have my parents who adopted me. They love me. And they just walked off laughing. It's like they don't understand well, look, I get it. They've lived in their lives with their Latino parents all their lives, which I get. But then they just never have met somebody where they had a background where they met a Latino with a background where they come from a very wealthy family, Caucasian parents that adopted him, came from, a place of wealth, love, and in a way, riches, and some of them have said, and who has an accent more like a white guy, and who has a name more like a white guy, because my full name is Chase Carlos Minor Carter, because my name is Chase Carter. You would expect that more of a white guy. But of course, they don't know how to look at that. And of course, the only people that I could go to for support and people who really accepted me was Caucasian people, because they were really the only ones who treated me nicely. And yet, over time, they would still look at me like that, as if I was a person who was willing to destroy them because of me being this, because they would say more things. They would say, "Oh, you're a sellout, beaner. You're a traitor. You're gonna deport everybody here, and you support Trump because you are a house beaner. You hate yourself. You're just a beaner. You're a sellout. You've lost your race card. You're not Latino anymore. You don't get to be this Latino anymore." And of course, that hurt a lot of my mentality, and it hurt me mentally too. And because of that, there were times when I just had self-doubt, but I knew I had people who were willing to still be friends with me, and people who were still willing to be there for me. But over time, just things started getting more, raunchy. They would say more raunchy things and more sometimes fucked up things. But I'll be honest with you, there were some Latinos who were nice to me. Some. who didn't give a crap about where I came from, which I'll say I'm glad for, because I knew one guy I was friends with since third grade there, and he had a girlfriend who was Latino. I still remember her. But like I said, she wasn't bad towards me. She wasn't mean. I guess she probably didn't understand me a little bit based on different backgrounds, but she was still respectful, so I can at least respect her for that. But because of that, there was an incident that really made me think about it. It really made me think that maybe I shouldn't be around them that much. And basically, what it was is I was in this room where there was this study. It's basically a studying area for us to study and do homework and stuff. And I don't know why this happened, but the teacher walks out because she needed to do something, and she trusted us to be like this, to behave. So we moved. I was what so of course we did things as kids, like watch things we weren't supposed to, talked. I went on my computer because I wanted to do things on my own. I haven't been so social that much around that time until high school, when I started to become a little more extroverted. At the time I was a lot more introverted. So I just did my own thing. I listened to rock music. I listened to The Who, The Stones, Pink Floyd, any, new music I listened to. And I guess they saw me listening to, in their words, white music, because I remember listening to Leonard Skinner. And just one girl and one guy just was looking at me watching it. And she's like, why are you listening to that redneck shit? I'm like, it's music. It's rock music. Who cares if it's redneck music? I just said that. And they're like, because you're just not being a true one. You're not being someone like us. And I said, I don't want to be like somebody like you. And honestly, I'm going to stop the accent. And there's like, oh, well, guess what? You're not one of us. And then most of the Latinos, and then one was trying to stand up for me. I'll say this, one person who was Caucasian tried to stand up for me, saying, who cares, he can do what he wants. And then a guy just grabs me out of my chair and says, you really should be careful about who you are, because you're going to get yourself killed for who you are by your own. We're going to kill you because you're nothing but a waste of time in our race. You're just a waste of space in this race that you should have been a part of. And yet you go with the whiteys, you go with these crackers, you go with everybody that you should be with, but you decide to betray us like this. And at the time I was a lot more emotional. And so I was starting to tear up a little bit, I'll be honest. And still crying, I was saying, why? I'm just being me. Why should I have to change? And then they just said, because you're nothing but a filthy little cracker. And then once he said that, he just pushed me to the ground. And at that point, I just grabbed all my stuff, just was way too distraught. Like I said, I was a lot more emotional at the time. And I just ran out of the room and I just hid somewhere, and I'll be honest, I cried. Just because there was really nothing they would do to make me feel that. There was really no way I could just help them or make them understand. And I thought, fine, if they don't want to like me, if they just want to be like that and treat me like that, then fine. I won't be near any Latinos then. That's how I thought. But I'll say this, like I said, clearly we come from different backgrounds. They clearly come from what they think a Latino should be, and they think that this idea that, oh, because you're Latino, you need to be this, that's what they've thought their whole lives. They've just lived in ignorance and arrogance their whole lives, and they just don't want to change that, and they probably look at certain other people as either a ticket or a code or a pass to get to something and earn something. And I think that's I think that's just fucking disgusting. Thinking that you could just use somebody else that looks different than you to get a pass towards something else. I think it's despicable, and I think it's just lazy, honestly, because you can't work with yourself. You can't achieve something with something yourself on your own. So you have to look at somebody else to do it for you. And I'll say this. That's not even a race thing. That's just a people thing. If you can't learn how to do something for yourself, then you're clearly not capable of doing it yet, or you'll never learn it. Then ask for help then. But I think the main takeaway I got from it is, look, I've learned. Well, when I went somewhere and just hid and cried, I thought two things that day. One, no matter what, no matter how much they tried, how much I tried to help them understand, they're never gonna understand, because all they tried to do was just belittle me, push me away from my own, and still just treat me like crap just because I come from a good place. And clearly, I don't know, maybe some of them did. Some of them probably came from not so wealthy and poor, and they just either, I think what it really is at the end of the day, I think it really is just jealousy, from what my parents told me when I told them this all these years later. They assume that it's more likely just jealousy because I came from a good place, I came from wealth. Because most Latinos don't, a lot of Latinos don't, and they clearly saw that. They were probably just jealous of me, and they clearly were just jealous of the idea that I come from a very good, wealthy place with really well-taught parents and well-educated parents, and because of that, they were either jealous, they got jealous, and they just wanted to spew their hate on me. And it also didn't really help either when it came to parent-teacher conferences, because basically it is where they would have parents meet the teachers, and they would bring their kids. When my family walked in, and I could tell most of them expected my parents to look Latino. And of course, this is before my parents got divorced, way before they got divorced. They expected them to look Latino. But then they walk in, and they're white. And I see a lot of the parents look at me and my family, either shocked or surprised. And I hear my mom talk to either some parents or some teachers, and she's polite, she's well adjusted. I mean, she has a master's degree, and she also worked for Kraft too, as a human resource officer. A good, well-paying, professional job. She does great with her life. She's done great with her life so much. And she's respectful. And she's managed to keep a good conversation. And that made me proud to be her son. It made me proud that she was my mother. But yet, I've seen some moms, and guess what? A lot of Latina moms, will look at her and just look disgusted at her, and then look at me, and they would just sit there looking this stern, like this, and they would just say things either in Spanish or sometimes English, and they would say things, from what I've overheard, they would say, that woman's just got it easy, because that woman's just got it easy. She doesn't know what it's like to raise them. She raised me and my brother, 2 boys. And this also leads back to something, because this also was a related story from what I've heard from my mom. I might get some parts inaccurate, but this is from what I remember she told me. Is back when I was probably a 20-month-old. I don't know how old I was. I'm gonna assume 20-month-old. She worked for a company, and she, like I said, with human resources, sometimes you have to be in meetings. You also have to hire and sometimes fire people, and it's not an easy job. But she did it anyway, and she was willing to work through it, which I'm honestly very proud of her for. And unfortunately, she did have to let some Latinas go, 2 Latina women go. It's not because of their race. It's because of maybe they did a job wrong. Maybe they did something wrong that didn't go up to code. And yet, from what she told me, they accused her of being racist. They accused her of being something like hateful towards them, saying you hate Latinas, and they probably even tried to get my mom fired because of it, thinking she was being discriminatory, until they saw a picture of the boy he was raising on her desk. They saw the picture of Me as a 19-month-old baby, a Latino young little boy, they saw that, and that shut them up. That shut them up completely. So there's also a history of my mom being treated badly, and then once they see they're raising one of their own, then they shut up. And if you don't know, it pisses me off. It pisses me off so much. It's why I have a hard time learning how to deal with this crap a lot, especially since there's little history of it in my family. And like I said, and the most hurtful comment that someone's told me throughout that time in middle school was they said, your parents aren't worthy of being parents because they're just going to raise you into being a Nazi. And that still fucks me up to this day, because I'm just so proud of my mom and dad for being able to raise me and my brother to being the great people we are today. I managed to, of course, graduate high school. I graduated community college when, because of me having autism, they said I wouldn't be able to handle it. I would just quit the first year. But as you can see, with this right here, look what I got. A diploma from the College of Southern Idaho in Twin Falls. And yet they told me that I couldn't do it. And like my mom says, she told me that they told me that I couldn't do it, and I said, fuck them, I'm gonna do it anyway. So you can tell it affected me a lot, because they raised me and my brother real well. My mom and my dad raised me real well to become the men we are today, to become the people that we want to be in the future. Because for me, I don't know about my brother, but for me, I desperately want to have kids. But I know I'm not ready yet because I'm not financially stable enough to. And in some aspects, not emotionally or mentally ready to have kids yet. Because I still got to learn a lot about parenting, I got to learn about housing, I got to learn about other things. It takes a lot of time, but when the time's right, then I will have kids. Even though I desperately want to. So one thing I do a lot is I babysit kids sometimes. And that gives me an idea of how to handle kids. But the point of this video is, don't let people define you. Don't let people put you in a box. Because if you just let people put you in a box and let you conform to everything you do, then it's going to make you think that you're not able to think for yourself. Because my piece of advice is, just be yourself. No matter what. Just because you're Latino and they tell you, oh, you need to have this big bowl cut on you just because you're Latino, or oh, you just need to listen to a Mexican artist just because you're that. Don't. I listened to things today. I listened to Leonard Skinner. I listened to Pink Floyd. I listened to this new punk artist named Youngblood. They're punk rock artists. And sometimes I even listen to Sex Pistols, which they can argue, oh, you're just, yeah, that's for white people. White, shaved head people. Who the fuck cares? Just be you. Do what you love. Be who you want to be. But also a good advice I have is, don't hurt anybody. Just be you, but don't hurt anybody. If you're not hurting anybody, then fine, good. Be you be you safely. But also know this. Your identity of who you are as a race does not define you. What defines you is your character, who you are as a person, and what you bring to the table. What makes you unique. What do you love doing? Because I love photography, I love music, I love vinyl records. I, of course, really love politics. But I'm also someone who's conservative. Just because you're Latino doesn't mean you have to be a Democrat because that's what they think that you need to be. Think your own way. And look, if you truly want to be a Democrat, even if you are that Latino and you want to, just because you think that way, then fine, go ahead. But if you're just doing it just for the sake of people telling you, oh, you're this, so you have to vote this way, don't let them control you like that. Don't let them make you think that you're this just because you have that opportunity to do so because of what they tell you. Because if you let them control you like that, it will fuck up your life. And if you don't do anything to fix yourself, to think, oh, I should think for myself and not let them control me. If you just don't let that happen, and if you don't have that type of self-awareness, then you're fucked. So just know, be you and keep the values that you believe in. Stay grounded. Stay true to yourself. And never let anybody control you or surrender to them. Because then you'll forever remain a slave. You'll forever remain a slave where they could just, in a way, whip you back into your place in a way if you think outside of the box. Because if you do think outside of the box, they'll just try to whip you back into your place. Don't let them do that to you. Think for yourself. And that goes for many other types of people, no matter what the race is. Think for yourself. Always remain calm, patient, cool, and collected. If you can do that, then you can succeed in so many amazing things, no matter what. And I really hope that many people take that advice not for granted, because thinking about it helps you a lot. It helps you know what's right and wrong. I mean, it worked for me, and I'm living in a great, and I honestly have a happy life, and I'm grateful for that. And with finals coming in next week, it's going to take a long time to do things now. I mean, I already finished 2 papers now, meaning those were the finals, 2 final research papers. And I just got an exam to do, so nothing too much. But before I click off this, before I end this whole video, I just want to say this. Get out there and do your best. Do what's best for you. Do what's best for the world. Be somebody that's going to be somebody that will make you into someone that people will respect. And be somebody that will help. Be somebody that people can look up to. Where they can get guidance, get advice. But you also got to learn how to give good advice. You got to learn how to understand what that advice does to people, how that advice affects them, how that helps their lives. It's not just about giving a single word to them or a single sentence. It's based on the idea of that sentence, the idea of that advice. So I suggest you do that. I hope you liked it. I hope you liked this video. It's a hassle to talk about this all the time, and I get it can be tiring for some people. But this is what I want to do. I want to help people so much. And I hope you can learn how to do that for other people too. But anyway, yeah, the thing is I gotta go. I have to piss real bad. So yeah, thanks so much. I'll make a lot more videos on things about different topics I want to talk about, which I think can help society. But yeah, I gotta go piss right now. See ya.